Hi, and welcome to our podcast. I'm your host, Howard Drukarsh. I've been a successful realtor in Canada's largest market, Toronto, for over 30 years. And in the latter part of my career, I co-founded Canada's largest independent brokerage, Right at Home Realty, with a roster of over 5,800 agents and growing. In 2020, I retired to start this podcast, and it's been a remarkable opportunity to meet highly successful and fascinating guests, find out about their careers, and get their insight into our business. Today's guest is Jacob Cohen. Jacob is the COO of Daniels Corporation. And Jacob, can I call you Jake?
Absolutely.
Okay, because I think everybody does. Okay.
You got it.
All right. So welcome to the program. Let me go through a bit of in your bio, because I think it's a fascinating story. The company, I'll talk about my own feeling about Daniels in a moment, but you're the chief operating officer, and definitely Daniels is one of Canada's largest and preeminent builders. And your role, which I think is really the key to a lot of companies' success, is you not only are involved with the daily operations, but you're involved with responsible for people and culture. And as much as anything's important in the company, it's keeping people and building a culture. And I think it's just a great role. And again, from your bio, what's important is to have an inclusive, positive working environment that exists where all people feel seen, valued, and heard. And I know from I guess we got connected through Dominic Tompa, and I've known Dominic for a few years, and he's just a really kind of the same example of someone who really likes working at Daniels. And I know that with any company, that's how you keep growing. You keep people from leaving. So I know that in your role, there's leadership. You want the company to move forward, and you do. You do that, and you have a Bachelor of Arts from McGill University. So how's that for your background?
That sounds pretty good. Very accurate. Exactly.
Okay.
Captures who I am.
Okay, great. So let's move on to the questions. And the first question, although I've always liked this, because the people we interview are generally entrepreneurial by nature. Certainly real estate agents are, a lot of developers are, and I'm always interested in, and I think our viewers are, were there entrepreneurs in your family? Now that's an easy one, because I know that your dad Mitchell is an entrepreneur with Daniels, but how much of an influence was that as you were growing up?
Yeah, it was a huge influence. Sitting around the dining room table for dinner as a young kid, Mitchell would always bring work home with him. More so because for him, it's not work. For him, it's about it's fun. It's energizing. He doesn't view the business as work. He views it as a good time. And so when he would bring it home, it would always felt that way. And so I kind of got a lot of that entrepreneurial spirit, that creative spirit, and that excitement that he brought home. I got a lot of that embodied in myself, I think, at a very young age.
And anybody who doesn't know what it's like to be a developer can't appreciate what it's like to enjoy it. Because every moment of every day, there's so many things going on. You're juggling so many plates and balls in the air to keep everything moving forward. And as we know, in today's market, in October 2020, things always change. So it's great that was the way he presented being in this business. The other thing I remember, because one of the other involvements I had and still have with Habitat for Humanity GTA was the company's the importance of being a part of community with the company. And I did ask you about that restaurant that was the Paint Box, I believe.
That's right, Paint Box Bistro in Regent Park.
Right.
Exactly.
And one year Habitat had a Christmas event there, and it was kind of my introduction to what a terrific way to look at being a developer, like to add things to a community that most don't. That was great. And obviously, I guess it would be Mitchell who spearheaded that at the time.
Yeah, well, I think the notion of building community has always been ingrained in who we are as a company. So Mitchell was the first member of the Daniels Corporation. He was hired by John Daniels, or we called him Jack Daniels, in 1984. Jack Daniels came from Cadillac Fairview. He was from Aaron Mills Development Corporation, and he kind of branched off into create his own company, which was the Daniels Corporation. Mitchell was his first hire.
Interesting.
And Mitchell came from the nonprofit sector. He came from the co-op housing sector. He came from an area of development which was way more about grassroots community building. That was really the heart of what he did and what he enjoyed doing. And he brought that to the company, to the Daniels Corporation, in full gusto. And so we very much, as a company, have grown up in that milieu. We've followed that mantra, which is, we use our development platform as a way to create positive social and environmental change. That's really our calling card, our mission statement for who we are as a company. We want to build buildings, we want to create communities, but we want communities that people are really going to enjoy living in, that people are going to feel are inclusive, that people are going to feel are for them, not just buildings which can be bricks and glass and wiring and all those sort of things. It's actually what's going on within those buildings, within those communities, that make them special. And that's been a really important part of who we are.
And I was going to hold off until later in the interview, but I can't. I live around Bayview and Eglinton in Toronto, and to get downtown, I quite often use the Bayview Extension. Sometimes I come back or go down through River Street. That project is the most mind-boggling development. I've got to ask you about that because it fascinates me. I guess the scope of the project and how big it is and how big it is relative to other projects in North America. Let's go
Incredible.
right to it.
I'm glad you brought it up, Howard. I think you're referring to Regent Park,
right,
which is very much I would say our calling card for what community building can be. It's been an incredible journey. I've been working on that project for about 15 years.
Wow.
We're now at the tail end of phase 3. There are 5 phases in that development, and the Daniels Corporation was able to do the first 3 phases, which made up almost 2/3 of the entire 69-acre redevelopment. It's a combination of market housing, of Toronto community housing, rent geared to income housing, amenity spaces like a big park, like an aquatic center, athletic grounds, an arts and cultural center. There's so many different elements that make the community special, that make it more than just a building. It's really what we love bringing people down to show. This is what community building can be all about. It can be more than just buildings. It can be more than just the little unit you live in. It can be about the little grocer that goes in next door. It can be about the community center that facilitates potluck dinners or ping pong tournaments or whatever it is on a regular basis. These are the important things in community building that we at Daniels love to promote, love to think about, and really get excited about. That's what development for us is all about.
And it's clear that your reputation is about those things. To put it in perspective, how many acres did you say it was?
So the entire site is 69 acres.
Okay. So for anybody who lives in Toronto and understands the main streets, it goes from River Street to how far west?
It goes River to Parliament,
yeah,
and it goes from Shooter all the way to Gerrard Street.
Okay.
So it's quite a swath of land.
Quite a swath. And again, it's fascinating because most developers don't take on a project of that scope. I mean, it's an ambitious and clearly successful project because I still drive by and watch it go up. So it's
absolutely
great.
Absolutely. And what it's done for us is we've done a lot of great learning in having experienced that, how to work with a public sector partner in Toronto community housing, how to work with other development partners. We partnered with a seniors housing provider, Chartwell Retirement Residence, because we wanted to bring in a seniors residence to kind of round out the different multi-generational community that it was going to be. It needed that. We've worked with a number of different partners, and luckily Regent Park has afforded us the ability to do that because of how large and how much scale it does have. And it now gets us thinking about other areas in Toronto, in the GTA, where we can continue to do community building at that large scale.
Oh, that's great. As I said, it's for anybody that understands anything about development, putting up one building is an enormous problem. Putting up all of those buildings You just have to applaud the developer. So I'll leave it at that.
Sure.
Getting back to your own situation before real estate, even though I guess you always had it in your life through your dad, were you doing something else after school?
So I got into the Daniels Corporation when I was 17 years old. So that was pretty early on. It
Wow.
was kind of high school and then into university summer school. But when I didn't do it, because I did it for a couple summers, I was a tennis instructor.
Ah,
I've always loved sports. I've been a big fan of tennis and kind of all sports. I ended up getting certified from a tennis perspective, Ontario Tennis, and did that for a summer or two. And then I transitioned into the low rise construction site at Daniels and really started to learn some things.
and once you got into the development side, it's different to watch somebody do it to be in the driver's seat. Did you find it much different than what you thought it would be, low rise?
Yeah, that was an incredible experience. So I did 2 years working with the low rise construction team, doing a number of different jobs. Working as a site laborer was really important. Kind of learning just mowing lawns, shoveling things around, moving dirt from here to there. That was really learning from the ground up. The second year, I did pre-delivery inspections, or we call them PDIs, which was taking tours of units that were finished and making sure that the finishes were up to a certain standard and up to a certain level. I learned some incredible things during those years, that one in particular, just about customer service, customer expectations, how to treat people right, and how to treat every homeowner and every home like it's your own. I
Mhm.
think that was a really an important thing that was instilled in me in those early days working in that with that low rise group. To the point of, we'd walk into a unit and we'd look at a electrical outlet, and it would have a plate on it, and the screw would be turned a certain way on that plate. And I was instructed, you got to always make sure the screw is turned horizontally.
Mhm.
That was just how we like to do it. It wasn't that it meant anything different, but it was that level of detail that the team instilled in me as a really important thing, of the level of detail that we want to instill in all of our construction team members who are trying to execute for the people who are moving into those units. So that was a really important thing, a really important lesson. It's about the detail. It's about really focusing and remembering that people are going to be living in these places, and you want to give it your absolute best effort that you can.
I have a kind of a funny story from a friend of mine whose family was in the development business, and he was in I guess, kind of the customer service, or part of it. And I remember he would go out to the projects that were, I guess the home or the building was pretty well finished, but they were doing a walkthrough, something like that. And people would say, "Well, can you just this door? Can you just move it over 6 inches?" Right? Without
Yeah.
understanding what it takes in terms of the mechanicals and what moving a door 6 inches means. So I guess you've run through a few of those, I'll bet, in the customer service.
Completely. That was. I would come home some nights and just think about some of the things that we got requested at one point. This one stands out in my mind just because you brought up an example. This was I had transitioned into the high rise team at this point, so it was a few years later. The high rise boom was starting to happen when I kind of got into that. So, and I was working kind of more on the, again, customer service, customer care, service and warranty side of the department. And somebody on the fifth floor of a condo unit, which was a 7-story building, was asking for a skylight to be installed. And so, it was one of those things where, again, people maybe not used to condo living, what that meant, who is above them, who is below them. But I always get a kick out of that when we were tried to be very nice and explain to them that was not going to be possible. But here's some of the other things that we can do that can help you get some more natural light in.
Probably a good idea would be just have a photo of a skylight.
I think so. You could put that right on the ceiling, and
You
that
know,
might satisfy it.
right, and then you never have to worry about it after that.
Yeah, yeah.
But I'm sure the stories are, obviously there's so many, but those are the ones that stick out because when people buy new construction, generally it's not where, I mean, sometimes I guess they've had that experience, but it's an exciting event, right? It's new. There's so much excitement, and I think that's what triggers wanting it to be very much personal. and and you can't put a skylight in a condo, but
No, exactly. It's very personal.
yeah.
It's the biggest purchase that people are going to be making in their lives, to buy a home, and it means a lot. And many of the people that we sell to, because of the type of typology that we build and the type of product we build, this a lot of the time can be their first time buying a home or buying a unit, whether it's a small townhouse or it's a small condo unit or it's a small two-bedroom unit. It can be their first opportunity, and there's a lot of nerves, and there can be a lot of uncertainty of what it's going to be
Mm.
like. And so, really making sure that we work with the purchasers and we think about them on a very human level. That's a very important thing to us. And that goes all the way from senior level management, Mitchell, myself, to directly to the sales and marketing teams. Dominic Tompa, our vice president and president of Daniels Realty, which is our realty arm,
Hmm.
he instills that in all of his sales agents, because it's very important for them to have a very personal relationship with each and every homeowner, because when times are great, you can have hundreds and hundreds of purchasers walk in the door and they don't look and they don't see and they just buy. But
Hmm.
you want to know something? In times like today, 2022 October, things are challenging.
Right.
You need to sell a unit one at a time, one purchase at a time, one experience at a time, and it really comes down to that personal level. And so having that experience with that on the sales team is a really important thing for us as a company.
And I think what you can build on is the reputation, that that the reputation is so solid that in call them challenging times, people want to go where they're going to feel comfortable, right? And so all those little details of turning a screw or being good to the customers, all that builds the culture and builds the reputation. And again, I'm a big fan because I just think what you've done is remarkable. So let me ask you this one, because this is really a part of your own experience. Your perspective on housing in the GTA, considering all the different types of construction you've been involved with. There's, I guess Toronto at one point had more um, construction towers than any other city in North America. But you're right in it. What's your take on the market in terms of new construction right now in October 2022?
Yeah, right now it's a truly challenging time. It's a very different time. I think for many, many years, I've been in the company, in the business for now 18 years, which for many people is not forever, but it's a long time, and it's been a very positive 18 years. There's been a few blips in
Right.
there, 2008, 2009. There was a few, a bit of a downturn here and there. But then we experienced COVID, and there was some challenges there, but the business kept going. People kept buying. This year, 2022, has been by far the most challenging year out of any year that I've experienced.
Right.
It's an uncertainty. There's truly an uncertainty of the market with the interest rate hikes that have been happening across the board consistently. It just leads to unease and angst. And that's very challenging for people to try to get into the real estate market, whether it's to buy their first home or buy a rental property that they want to make an investment in. Having the uncertainty of where's the interest rates going, when is it going to stop, when are these increases going to slow down, all those questions just lead to a lot of angst. And I think that has proven challenging for many developers, many builders over the last kind of 6 months to a year. I don't see it stopping anytime soon. I think it's going to continue to be a bit of a challenge for the next 6 to 8 to 12 months. And it really will be about weathering the storm. It'll be about having, for us as a company, different typologies of product. We do more than just build condo buildings, which is a thing that we decided, a number of years ago, that we had to diversify what we do in order to keep the business going, keep the machine moving.
Hmm.
We build student residence. We're building a student residence right now for 550 beds with the University of Toronto in downtown Toronto. That's keeping our construction team going. We're building a seniors residence. We're building rental buildings, purpose-built rental buildings. The rental market continues to be very, very strong while interest rates have challenges and condo sales slow down. We're not going to stop condo sales. We're still going to be doing that. That's still the core function of what we do and what we do very well. But having that diversity of product is very important. Weathering this challenging time and being really strategic with what we come out and launch and when and how and why. It comes down to being successful in these challenging times, comes down to, can you have a very sharp number? Did you buy your land at a very good number? Did you acquire it at a good number where you can then create a good budget, create a good pro forma, and sell it at a number that can be reasonable, that people will still see as attractive and see as a good investment? That's going to be our biggest challenge over the next 8 to 12 months, is making sure we have the right pieces of land, the tightest budgets we can possibly have, so that we can launch projects to people and say, this is a very attractive product, this is a very attractive price, this is still a great investment, because 3-4 years from now, we all believe it will continue to rise back up to where it once was.
I think you're right. I mean, I remember the same thing. I started in real estate in 1984. I remember 2008 and 2009. I didn't think anything could be more brutal. But again, I got through it. Daniel's got through it. And what it is for new people in the business, as you said, who've never seen an extended slowdown. I used to, when I was involved with Right at Home and I was managing or recruiting, and people did not know or had never heard of something called a price reduction. Right? It's like,
Exactly.
why would anyone reduce their price? And now when the markets turn, that's the hardest part for a residential agent, because people look to what it was 6 months ago. And, it's a whole long story, but my point is, I think you've survived, I've survived, and it's a real interesting business to feel great. You survived the down part. Anybody can survive the up part, right? So
I think that's exactly right. I think
right.
we're well positioned to survive the down part, because we're lucky. We are a fully vertically integrated company. We do it all, from acquiring the land to zoning it to developing it to then building it ourselves, providing the service and warranty and the after service care. So we can control that. We can control all the different elements that goes into development, and we're not relying on anyone else to tell us, well, pricing is here or pricing is there, you have to do this. We get to control that. It would be great if all of our trades started to come back to us right now and said, we're slashing prices because work's slowing down.
Right.
That hasn't happened yet, but I'm thinking it's going to be coming soon.
Well, it's going back to this market. In the periods where from 1984 to when I stopped in selling in 2004, we started the company. The thing that always struck me about what affects people's decision on making a purchase was consumer confidence. Not necessarily interest rates, but if people felt their job was safe, if people felt, the world is safe, they'd make these kind of decisions. And to your point, right now, I think there's just too many unknowns. And I think as those clear up, I mean, obviously interest rates do affect people, but the other thing is an intangible. Do people feel comfortable, and do they feel confident, right?
Yeah, and I think there's external factors that are very much contributing to that anxiety.
Right.
There's the wars going on, there's challenges in a bunch of different places, and
Right.
that is absolutely leading to a little bit of uncertainty. And I think you're right. I completely agree with you on that.
Well, listen, we both see it from the same angle.
Yeah.
In terms, you mentioned the pandemic. How did it affect the projects that you worked on? Because you kept going. How did you adjust? How did the company adjust to the first time in 100 years you'd had to think about something like that?
Yeah, this was an incredible experience for me. So I was about less than a year into the COO role, so very much new into that. Obviously, know the company quite well at that point in time, but new position, new responsibility, and then pandemic hits. I think what was first and foremost incredible and extremely lucky for our industry was that construction got deemed an essential service.
Mm-hmm.
When that happened, it meant that all our construction sites could continue to operate and continue to work. And at that point in time, I think we had 14 or 15 active construction sites on the go. So the initial fear when it started to come down the pipe of, are we going to get fully shut down? Or is every site going to get shut down? Are we going to start having to lay people off, move people here, do this? That was a lot of challenging times. That was really difficult. Once the dust settled and we realized, and there was advocates for our industry, that we could keep going, it was an essential service. Providing homes for people is an essential service. That started to settle things down. Then it became transitioning to what is it like to operate a business remotely, a construction business remotely. So you have, 75% of our business or our company is out on the sites building those buildings every single day. And then you have 25%, which is our in-office staff who are trying to help manage that process. So my job was essentially trying to ensure that the people working remotely, sitting at home every day, were staying connected and staying plugged in with what was going on the sites, because they felt isolated. They felt like they were on their own. They felt like they were by themselves and they needed to feel supported. So it was a real important time to try to engage with them in different ways, make sure that they were heard, make sure their voices were heard. We had to put in all the different protocols and procedures to keep people safe, screening and temperature taking. Everything just seemed to take longer. You heard people talk about supply chain. That was very real. Everything was challenging to get and to bring in. But the good thing was we kept going. We just kept going. And incredibly enough, from a sales perspective, we shuttered all our sales offices, our in-person sales offices, transitioned to online virtual sales, and it was just as good, if not better. It was incredible.
Yeah.
The online virtual sales experience, having the tools to be able to do that, execute that, make people feel comfortable to buy a home online, signing on a piece of paper. I mean, not on a piece of paper, but on a computer. All those things were incredible learning experiences that we had to go through to transition the company to be able to work virtually, work remotely, while still building the buildings out there in the real world. So, I mean, what an unbelievable experience. What an unbelievable for everybody. I'm glad we're kind of coming out of it now. The big challenge for me now is, reintegrating the company back into an office environment and getting them to remember what it was like to do that and what that felt like and what that office culture is all about. Because there's definitely something that was lost when you can work from home. Yes, it's doable for many people, but there is that camaraderie, that creativity, that collaboration that's needed a little bit more when you are together in the same room or the same boardroom or working together on the same idea, not necessarily in front of a screen. So that continues to be the challenge kind of coming out of COVID, but it's one that we're continuing to think about almost every day.
You're so successful in so many ways. I'm sure that won't be a challenge that you can't overcome. I want to ask some personal questions because when we first connected, I said I try to keep it to a half hour because I know how busy you are. We're already a half hour, so I'm going to ask some personal questions that I think will help help people understand you. What's been your biggest success in development?
Biggest success, I think we talked about it. I think being involved with the incredible team who has created the Regent Park revitalization in the first 3 phases of that program has been an unbelievable success. For me personally, to be part of that, I was part of a big team that drove that program in partnership with Toronto Community Housing, but it's something that I'm very proud of and that the team I know is very proud of. And we learned so much from it in terms of how to be a better developer, community builder, think about the little person, think about the people who need more support, and be creative in all those different ways. So I'd have to say that.
Okay, that's a perfect answer because, as I said, it's an eye opener as a development in your career, and everybody has these. What's been your biggest challenge, and what did you learn from it?
Biggest challenge is the transition of making sure we are able to properly move from the first generation, which was Mitchell and his people and his generation of leadership at Daniels, and transitioning to a second generation company and hopefully a third generation company. I think many companies that are family run companies can struggle when they have that transition if it's not done properly, if succession planning isn't thought out properly, if leadership isn't thought out properly. I've spent a ton of time with the existing leadership, working with them, talking with them, integrating what I think the next generation of leadership is going to be and is going to look like, and melding that, I think, quite well with what the existing generation of leadership is at the company. So we have this incredible harmony, I think, between the two right now that will enable us in the future to continue to be successful. But it has definitely been the biggest challenge to try to continue to make sure we do that right and don't lose what it was like to be a developer and be a builder 15, 20 years ago. Learn from those things and continue to move that forward going in the years to come.
And I think earlier in the interview you explained that although your business is to build, construct, it's managing the people in that business that make it work or not work. So, obviously, the succession planning is, again, one of the big steps in any company. And it sounds like you got a pretty good handle on it. I have two more questions. This one I think could take up another half hour, but here we go. What projects are you working on now, Jake?
Oh my God. Yes. Okay.
Okay.
Well, yeah, we have a number of very exciting projects coming down the pipe, and it could take up a lot of time, but in the
Right.
short strokes,
Okay.
there's a couple that I'm very, very excited about. We have a great piece of land in Brampton, which is at the Mount Pleasant GO station. It's going to
Right.
be called Mount Pleasant Village,
Yeah.
and it's going to be an eco-urban village. We're very much focused on sustainability and sustainable building, solar panels and geothermal, and thinking about building for the future with a zero carbon notion in the very much the front of our mind. So that project in Brampton, Mount Pleasant Village, MPV as we call it, that one's going to be coming out next year. We're very excited about that one. Another one that we're extremely excited about is in partnership with a great gentleman named Dr. Shi, who runs a company called MSHI Developments. And between MSHI and ourselves, we have a piece of land in North Oakville, which we're going to be launching a project called Oakville Yards. We haven't built in Oakville for a number of years, but it's going to be a 3-tower, 15-story, 18-story tower complex. But we're doing all of the good community building that's going to make it unique for the Oakville market. We're thinking about urban agriculture. We're thinking about gardening plots. We're thinking about outdoor spaces in a very creative and unique way that I think is going to really be different than what people have experienced out in Oakville previously. Very excited about that. A little further down the pipe, we have an incredible piece of land in downtown Toronto, which is going to start to be rolling out. It's at 95 St. Joseph Street. It's going to be a condo that's also going to have a seniors component that's going to be part of it as well, which is very exciting. It's in the early stages right now, a number of years off, but it's going to be one of those, again, multi-generational, multi-use. Let's be creative with the space that we have and do something very unique. So that one's amazing and excited about that one. And then the next, maybe I'll I could keep going, but the last
That's
one
what
I
I
will
thought.
say, I'm sorry,
Okay.
is one in Golden Mile. We're working with a great partner with Choice Properties, and
Nice.
we're going to be working towards the first phase of the Golden Mile redevelopment. So taking tons of the learnings that we've done in Regent Park, in that community building, and taking it to another neighborhood that I think is going to have many similar features and functions that we can lean on from what we've experienced in the past. Take the show on the road, and really think about community building at a real grassroots level. And that's already starting. The work is starting there with learning what does that neighborhood and what does that community need. So Golden Mile is one that's going to be coming down the pipe in a few years for sure.
We probably could have kept going.
I honestly, I could, but again,
All
you're
right.
right. We'll keep it at the high level for now.
Perfect.
There's lots of other exciting things, but those ones that get me really pumped up right now.
Right. Well, first off, and we don't know each other. It's the first time we've met. I love your authenticity and I love your passion for the business. And my last question is going to be something that people who view this are going to be interested in knowing. And the question is, what would you say to someone who was interested in getting into the real estate development field? Because they look at you and I think you're a great example of that field.
Yeah, I would say it's an incredibly exciting business. It is. There's multifaceted. You can do so many different things within the real estate field, within the real estate development. If you have a certain skill set that you want to specialize, you can specialize. If you want to be a generalist because you have multiple talents and you're good at sales, but you're also good at marketing, but you're also pretty good at numbers, there's places for you. There's spaces for you. You can find a career in real estate development because of how diverse it is. And I think maybe most importantly, you can be creative as well. I think development is something that maybe many people think is just very box focused. You put it in a box and this is how you produce a building or how you, yes, that is a part of it, but there's creativity that we can put into it in many different ways. You can make positive change in the world through real estate development. You can change people's lives. You can change the environment. You can make a real positive impact in the things that you're doing on a day-to-day basis. And I think that's quite rewarding. So I'm encouraging. I tell anybody who's thinking about it or wants to think about real estate as a career path that don't just limit yourself to thinking it's just building or just construction or just contracts and estimating. There's so many different facets to it that make it very unique.
Well, I think that's a great answer, and it might avoid a few phone calls when people would call you. But maybe not. We'll see.
Maybe not.
A real pleasure to have you. I'd love to have you back again. I mean, there'll always be good projects, so maybe we could do that down the road. In the meantime, thank you for the time. I obviously, I know how busy you are now that we've talked more, and wish you all the best with all the projects. Thank you so much, Jake. Appreciate your time.
Thank you for having me, Howard. Really appreciate it.
Okay. Take care. Bye.
Bye.
We'd like to thank Jacob Cohen and you for joining us today. And if you enjoyed our podcast, please like, comment, and subscribe on your favorite podcast network or on our YouTube channel. And to get in touch with us, you can either reach us by email at info@rewithhd.com or on our website, rewithhd.com. Thank you for joining us, and we'll see you next time.